My name is Lorenzo Banks, and I'm an attorney. So I actually wear a couple of different hats. On one hand, I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at Oklahoma City University School of Law in, you might have guessed it, Oklahoma City. Hopefully y'all guessed that. Y'all all smart, right? Y'all all going to law school. Oklahoma City University is in Oklahoma City. So I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions at that law school, but in conjunction with that, I only do that part-time. What I really do full-time is I'm just like the ladies and gentlemen that were on that panel before. I'm an attorney. And more so, I'm a practicing attorney. I have my own law firm in Oklahoma City, Banks, Gilbert, Gillette, PLLC. So, and I've been down here turning up in Atlanta while my three partners is at work. And I think it's hilarious. So, and I get to come hang out with you all. So, I get the opportunity to give this talk all around the country because I find it to be oh so important, right? We as American citizens are going to we're going to have encounters with police officers. The thing is, we have to know what our rights are and what they are not during these encounters so that you can actually intelligibly decide on what you need to do as you are encountering this officer. So why is that and why am I giving this talk? Well, one, it's because I sue cops. I do. Hang on. I sue bad cops. I don't sue all cops. I sue bad cops. But I've made a living suing cops for jacking up. So this is why I give this talk, because I know what it's like to sue a cop when they mess up. And so I can really spot the things that they're doing wrong. And I want to show you not only what they're doing wrong, but what some of us are doing wrong during these police stops. Now, I think it's most important that you all know this is because you all are proclaimed to be aspiring lawyers, right? You all are going to be lawyers one day. And so I would hope that the people that are saying that they want to be lawyers would know this law, this type of law, something that everybody in the United States needs to know, because at some point you're going to get pulled over for something. You're going to run into a police officer for some reason. I would hope that you would know better than anybody else so you can educate your friends, the masses, the society. So why do I do this in particular? Okay. So, can I be myself? Yes. Yeah. It might be too late. I already started being myself. I ain't even had nothing to drink yet. So, the first thing is, we get a lot of people, and just keep looking straight ahead because it might be you. But we get a lot of people that call themselves, essentially try to be Facebook lawyers. You know. They get on Facebook talking about all the law that they know and be wrong as two left shoes. Don't know what they talking about. Really putting up posts and stuff. Like my status. No, go read a book. That's what you need to do. You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. So I give this talk to make sure that we don't listen to Facebook lawyers. We also have prison lawyers. Everybody got that cousin Ronnie. Ronnie did time in '94, right? And while Ronnie was in custody, Ronnie read books. Ronnie come out, think he a lawyer. So Ronnie gonna tell you what you can and cannot do with an officer. Ronnie don't know what he talking about. That's why he was in prison in the first place. So we don't want to listen to Facebook lawyers. We don't want to listen to prison lawyers. We want to listen to real lawyers that are going to teach us what to do and what the actual law is. With that being said, this is how we govern ourselves during a police stop. You have to know two things. The first thing is you have to know the law. And the second thing you need to know is best practices. So the foundational part is the law. Let us learn the law. I have learned that most people in the United States have very, very misconstrued understanding about what the law is dealing with police stops and dealing with police encounters. So with that being said, let's get to the law. Y'all, I used to be a teacher before I was a lawyer. So I may be talking with you and not at you. I'm going to ask for some audience participation. So just bear with a brother as I continue to reach out and, in fact, educate the masses. But, in fact, I want you to join me in helping. Let's educate all of us. Let us all do this together. First things first. Question. We're talking about our rights, right? Great. Where do they come from? Thank you. So the answer is that our rights come from the Constitution. Great. Next question. Which one? I'm sorry? Huh? I'm hearing a lot of stuff. Somebody yell something out so I can hear you. Because the Bill of Rights, great. Where's that found? Okay, the Constitution. Which one? Good. That's what I'm trying to get you to say. That's what I'm trying to get you to say. Yes, because contrary to popular belief, there's more than one Constitution. Missouri, the state of Missouri has a constitution. The state of Georgia, the state of Oklahoma, where I'm from, the state of Michigan, the state of Florida, all of the states have their own constitution. But your rights that we talk about when it comes to dealing with the government, they come from the U.S. Constitution. And I heard someone say, and I think that might have been this lovely lady here on the front, it might have been several of you, but it comes from most of them. What we're talking is the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. Great, great, great. Now, here's another one. Who do they protect you from? Good. My man said it here on the front. The Bill of Rights, your rights protect you from the government. They protect you from the government. So when you hear people say, well, I wanted to do this in my job, it's how I feel, it's my First Amendment rights. Your job ain't the government, so they can fire you. You see what I'm saying? That don't protect you from your job. Your job's like, okay, yeah, that is your First Amendment right. Pack up your stuff, right? But you and go find you another job that will let you say that. You can't say that here, but you're welcome to say it. You're right, but go home. That is what you need to understand. So remember that your Bill of Rights, your rights come from the U.S. Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution is there to protect you. At least the first 10 amendments are there to protect you from the government. I'm going to try to get through this because I know we're a little behind time. I want to get to everything, but at the same time, I want to be sensitive to where we are on time. So, other than that, after you have the U.S. Constitution, then you move to state law. See, the U.S. Constitution is our founding document here in the United States, and every law that is made in the United States, whether it's federal or it's state law, it has to work harmoniously with the U.S. Constitution. So you've got the Constitution, which is the foundation. After that, each of the individual states will have their own sets of laws that have to work with. They cannot contradict the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, over here. So keep that in mind as we keep going forward. With that being said, let's get into some scenarios. I could easily go through this and tell y'all this through a series of, well, this is the law and statute 4S22 OS. I ain't got time for that, okay? It's in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta. I want to turn up tonight. I ain't got time for that, right? So I want to teach you in ways that we can actually, in fact, absorb this information. I'm going to give you a set of scenarios, and we're going to learn the answers through the scenarios. So here we go. Scenario one. What street am I on? We are on Park. Are we on Park Place? Is that what? Park. We on Park Place? Okay. So I'm trying to still get my bearings here in Atlanta. I'm here every year, and I always forget where I am. Peachtree. There's like 9 peach trees in Atlanta streets. Pick a Peachtree Street. You're driving down Peachtree Street, right? And yes, you're driving down there, and me and my man in the front row, we driving. I'm passenger. You know, he worried because I know Lorenzo got warrants. So, you know, he don't want to get pulled over. We're driving. And as we're driving down the street, we get pulled over. Officer pulls up to the front, pulls up, gets to the driver's side and says, hey, I stopped you for whatever excuse the officer has. And says, well, yeah, you got your driver's license and registration? Yeah, okay, cool. I need to look around the car a little bit. Good. So, good. Okay, so I hear people saying no. Okay, good. Yes, the officer cannot look around your car without your permission unless, good, y'all didn't, these pre-law students. Okay, that's what I like to hear. Yes, unless you give that officer probable cause. Yes, that is the case. Which right protects you? Say it, somebody said it. Fourth, we're dealing with the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment, with unlawful detention, yes, it's all in there. Your right against unlawful searches and seizures by the government. It is found in the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Good. Now, typically, an officer has to have a warrant to get in your car, typically. But the U.S. Supreme Court said this, and I forget the case name off the top of the head, but the U.S. Supreme Court said this, is that since cars are inherently movable, and it's sometimes impracticable to go and get a warrant at 2 o'clock in the morning, because a car could take off, it's on the side of the road, we say that the U.S. Supreme Court said that an officer can search a vehicle without a warrant if the officer has probable cause to do so. So, what is probable cause? Okay. Smelling of marijuana. When will people learn? Don't smoke in your car. But they do it all the time. So, or I have a client in Oklahoma City. He may just so happen to sell drugs. I don't know. That's none of my business. But if you leave your drugs on the front seat of the car and the officer walks up, oh man, he searched my car. Yeah, bro, you had 25. Come on, bro. You had a dub sack sitting in the, come on, man. So you cannot get, I don't know, that's what I've heard they're called. Anyway, so you cannot give the officer probable cause, because if you do, the officer will in fact be able to search your vehicle without a warrant. Good. And of course, there's always, and of course, if you give the officer consent, right? If you ever at any point, the officer says, hey, kind of look around. Okay. No, you just gave him consent. You've just waived your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizures. So don't do that. Good. Okay. All right. We moving along. Okay. Same scenario. We drive down one of these Peachtree streets. I don't know. And the officer, I guess he looked at me and said, oh, you with Lorenzo? I know he got warrants. Why don't y'all step out of the car? Right? Officer says, get out of the car. You're the driver. Oh, man, do you got to get out of the car? Yes. Good. And see, everyone who asked, who said no, it's okay. You know why? Because we didn't listen to Ronnie. And Ronnie then told cousin Ronnie, because he did time in 94. Ronnie said, and he read a few books while he was in there. Ronnie said, we ain't got to get out the car. Ronnie lying, right? There's a case that came before the U.S. Supreme Court called Pennsylvania versus Mims. I want to say it was in the 70s. Don't quote me on that. Pennsylvania versus Mims, but essentially what the court said is it was a case about a guy who got pulled over by Pennsylvania officers. Officers rolled up on him, told him to get out of the car. They seen under his jacket he had a large bulging something. It ended up being a gun under his jacket. They arrested him, took him to jail. His lawyers fought it all the way to U.S. Supreme Court. And of course, their argument to the U.S. Supreme Court was that when the officers told him to get out of the car, that was a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure. Getting out of the car was a search, according to them. And the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, it's not. It's not against your constitutional rights. It is not considered a search for an officer to tell you to get out of the car during a traffic stop. Which is why oftentimes, especially highway patrolmen will tell you, hey, get out of the car and why don't you, okay, yeah, pull you over. Hey, come back to my squad car with me. Have they ever did that to y'all? Come sit in the car with me? No? No? Okay. Well, here's why they do that. One, they're trying to see if they can smell drugs on you, and they're trying to see what they can do. That's bottom line. They're trying to make an arrest for something other than you speeding or changing lanes without a signal. But the other thing is that the U.S. Supreme Court said that an officer should be able to ask you to get out of the car away from the side of the road to avoid being hit by oncoming traffic. Do we agree with their assessment? I don't. I think it's an evisceration. You say what, brother? They could not just pull us over, but that ain't gonna happen, right? That's like saying, that's like me being tall. It ain't gonna happen, right? We gonna get pulled over, right? But I hear what you're saying. Yes, that's what the U.S. Supreme Court said, is that an officer should in fact be able to get to the side of the road away from traffic. Do I agree with it? No. But that is what the U.S. Supreme Court said. What they also said in a case called Maryland versus Wilson not too long after that is that not only can they tell the driver to get out of the car, but everybody in the car got to get out if they tell you in fact to get out of the car. And so what people do is, because they know I sue officers, and I do these YouTube videos answering questions when people give me legal questions from all across the world. All across the world now. They'll send me videos. Oh my God, his rights were violated. Look, they yanked him out the car. Did they tell him get out the car? And people don't like hearing me. There are some groups in Oklahoma that have essentially not invited me back to speak because I wasn't there to push an agenda. I'm there to push the law. I disagree with the law, but what is the law? The law says that you have no constitutional protection from an officer telling you to get out of the car. So when an officer tells you to get out of the car, I don't care how good, but Lorenzo, look, they yanked him out the car. Well, nobody wanted to hear me when I said what happened to Sandra Bland was awful. However, they tell you to get out the car, you got to get out the car, okay? That's what we need to know. That's what we need to know. Hold those questions because I want to get through them. I'm going to save some time at the end. I'm going to save all those questions. So there you go. Good, 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 good. So in a resounding voice, the officer says, get out the car. What do we do? Get out the car. Okay. All right. Good, good, good. Because you have no constitutional protection for staying in the car. And you're probably going to get yanked up out the car. So you might as well go ahead and get out the car. Okay. This time, all right, so we're driving down Peachtree Street. And Lorenzo got warrants, right? And we get pulled over, and this time, it's like, you know what? Officer, why'd you pull me over? Well, Lorenzo wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Okay, that's cool. And then the officer proceeds to arrest me, put me in cuffs, taking me downtown, talking about taking me downtown for a seatbelt violation. Can the officer do that? Huh? Good, that's a good question. The question was I Mirandized first? Whether or not, that's a very good question. It just so happens that in this scenario, it doesn't matter. We'll talk about Miranda here not too long from now. So, but can the officer, so essentially put, can the officer in fact arrest me for something as simple as take me to jail for a seatbelt? In Oklahoma, it's a $20 ticket. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. The answer is yes. So, yeah, see? And so often, once again, people call, and my best friend is a computer programmer. And he was just like, oh, that's ridiculous, man. I done seen plenty of shows where they done told me that you can't arrest you for a seatbelt violation or for regular speed. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good that you know, Mr. Computer Programmer, and I'm the licensed attorney. You're going to tell me what it is. But yes, contrary to popular belief, you can, in fact, be arrested for a minor traffic violation. So there was a case that came before the U.S. Supreme Court called Atwater versus City of Laga Vista. And essentially what the United States Supreme Court said is that so long as something happens in the presence of if an officer has probable cause, an officer can arrest you for the slightest and most minor traffic violation. He or she can. Now, the truth of the matter is that most of the police departments are like, dude, we ain't got time for all that paperwork. Every time they take somebody into the jail, they got paperwork, they got to do reports. They don't want to do that. So most police departments have an inter-district, a policy within the department that says, look, bro, we are not taking people to jail for speeding tickets, for $20 tickets. Go ahead. Yeah, everybody be in jail. It's not good. It's not conducive for police work. So give them a ticket and send them on their way. However, what the U.S. Supreme Court said is that it does not violate your constitutional rights. It does not violate your constitutional rights. Now, remember when we said that we have two sets of laws that you have to deal with? You're going to deal with your U.S. Constitution and you're going to deal with your state laws, right? And your state laws have to, in fact, work harmoniously with what is promulgated within the U.S. Constitution. So each of the individual states will have their own kind of, the U.S. Constitution is the threshold, but but each state can choose to restrict the power of police officers more. The states may say, well, we know that it's not a violation of your constitutional rights to arrest somebody for a minor traffic violation. But we as the state of Georgia, we as the state of Florida, we as the state of California, we want to restrict the power of officers more. Each of you are from all across this nation here at the HBCU Pre-Law Summit. And so I'm not going to profess that I know all the laws of all 50 states. So you're going to have to know back in your respective states what the law is. You're going to have to talk to licensed counsel in your state. But each of the states will have a law that is on point that may restrict the officers more, or it may not. For instance, in the state of Oklahoma, Oklahoma says this. They say, yeah, we want to restrict officers a little bit. They say, yeah, that, well, not really. No, now that I think about it, no. That's the other thing. I'll tell you that here in a second. But in Oklahoma, it says that you can arrest someone so long as it happened in your presence as an officer. So as long as the infraction speak 5 miles an hour over, the law says in Oklahoma that as long as it's as long as it happened in the officer's presence, the officer can arrest for it. I looked up the law for Georgia. Georgia's a little different. Because, I mean, according to the U.S. Constitution, you can get arrested for anything. I mean, jaywalking. You can be arrested for jaywalking because they say it's not a violation of your constitutional rights. Oklahoma said, we want to restrict it, but at least it has to happen in the officer's presence. Georgia did a little bit more. They restricted it even more. Georgia says that you can only arrest for minor traffic violations. But, so they jaywalking and all that stuff, at least according to their statute. I'm not a licensed attorney here in Georgia, so I'm not going to profess that I know the law here. But from what I could tell, reading through you all's through the statutes here, is that we want to restrict it, but it goes down to minor traffic violations. Will allow you to, in fact, arrest individuals for minor traffic violations, so long as it happened in your presence or you had probable cause, another officer radioed it in, yada, 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 something along those lines. But know that the law says the Constitution does not protect you from being essentially arrested for going 5 miles an hour over. Remember that. Remember. Okay. Same scenario, right? Officer pull you over, you on Peachtree Street. Lorenzo got warrants, we think, right? And this time, he looking at me like Lorenzo got warrants. But then looks over at you, and out of nowhere says, you know what? You're under arrest. Proceeds to say, get out of the car. You're like, what's going on? Oh my God, don't do this. I got class tomorrow. Don't do this. And so, don't do this. I got a paper due, And so, you're getting arrested. You're getting arrested, and you're like, what is the charge? What is the charge? What is the charge? And the officer refuses to tell you what you're being arrested for. Get in the car. Can the officer do that? No. Right. Okay. So Miranda rights. Once again, it's a good point. It's not relevant here. We're going to talk about Miranda. The answer is yes. Yes. See, don't listen to Cousin Ronnie. All right. So don't listen to Cousin Ronnie. Okay. Case that came before the U.S. Supreme Court. I forget what year it is, but it was called Alford versus Devenpeck. And in that case, the court said this, and they were very clear. They said, although it is good police practice to tell an individual why you are arresting them, it is not constitutionally mandated. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying that is the law. Right? Now, so remember, U.S. Supreme Court said that doesn't violate your constitutional rights. And they went into all this detail of, well, if in fact you are getting arrested, well, by the time you get to your arraignment, which is within 72 hours, you'll learn what you're being accused of, what you're being arrested for there when you go in front of a magistrate. That was their reasoning behind it. I couldn't disagree with it more. However, that is the state of the law. It does not violate your constitutional rights. Now remember, we have the U.S. Constitution, and we also have state law. And each of the individual 50 states can in fact hone in and restrict the powers of police officers more if they want to. In Oklahoma, I cannot pretend to profess that I know what all 50 of the law is in all 50 states. I can't even find this statute here in Georgia. But I can tell you what it is in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, they say that an officer, Oklahoma said, nah, we don't like that. Okay, we're going to restrict officers a little bit, but just a little bit. In Oklahoma, they say, you got to tell them what you are arresting them for, unless they are in fact committing the offense, they are in the process of committing the offense that you're arresting them for. If they're doing that, then you don't have to tell them. But otherwise, if you're arresting them, you got to tell them why you're arresting them. So, but think about it. Most of the time, you're going to be in commission of the offense for which the officer is arresting you of. So if you go and 5 mile an hour over, at least in my state, officer says, hey, you're under arrest. What am I under arrest for? Well, you were in commission of speeding. He or she does not have to tell you why they're arresting you. It's crazy. I don't agree with it. It's the law. So you're going to have to look at each of your individual respective states in terms of, does an officer have to tell you why you are being arrested? Know that, okay? Remember, it doesn't violate your constitutional rights. Good Lord. Well, did I jack up y'all's lives enough today yet? It's okay, but there's power in knowledge. That's why we're learning this, okay? So we'll know how to govern ourselves and know what really our rights are. So you ain't on my Facebook, your cousin Ronnie standing over your shoulder like, send that to Lorenzo, send that to Lorenzo. No, you should have got yanked out the car, okay? So that's kind of a general sense of, where am I on time? Okay, I've been going 30 minutes. That's kind of a general sense of, I could go into DUIs. I'm going to skip over those for the moment, and I want to get to the most important thing, because most of you all are college students or soon after college students, new graduates. So I think this is most important for me to get to. You all will typically deal with police officers in two instances. You will end up dealing with police officers in the car, or you'll deal with police officers at your house. That's typically where you're going to deal with them at. In particular, if you're staying on the dorms, especially campus police officers. So dorms, campus apartments, whatever. So I wanted to talk to you about your rights. You've kind of learned it when you were in your car. Let's talk about your rights when you're in your house. Now, the Fourth Amendment is its strongest, all right? You have the greatest constitutional protection against unreasonable search and seizure when you are in the confines of your home, right? Which is why I always tell people, stay at the house if you can. Turn up at home. It's cheaper, and you don't get DUIs, and it's a lot easier to tell an officer, you can't come up over it. You can't come up in here, man, okay? So, but I mean, go out, support the economy, drink responsibly, go and do what you do. However, your biggest and best protection is at your house, all right? So, once again, you're dealing with warrants and exigent circumstances. I could go into a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to bore you with all the legal jargon. Let's get into the scenarios again, right? So, this time y'all come, I don't know, man. Okay, so we at somebody's house, one of y'all, all right? One of y'all got a house big enough. We all up in there, we chilling, right? And you guys got a house off campus. You got a house off campus, and we got to get together. And suddenly you hear a knock at the door. Police, open up, because we turning up, right? It's loud, right? And so they know, police, open up. Do you have to open the door? No. You don't. You do not have to open the door. You see, because remember what the Fourth Amendment says is that essentially you are protected against unreasonable search and seizures, and the only way a search or a seizure is reasonable is if the police have a warrant. That's if they have a warrant. Now, of course, the U.S. Supreme Court said that there are some exceptions to the rule, exigent circumstances and fleeing felon and all that. We can go into all that. But for the most part, an officer, especially with a home, you got to have a warrant to get up in there. So if the officer is coming up, knocking on the door, if the officer is saying, you're knocking on the door, hey, open the door, there's no law that says that you must open the door. Now, will you probably get a noise violation? Probably. You'll get a ticket. Probably. You can pay the ticket. That's no big deal. But you don't have, am I saying you should not open the door? You should open the door? That's up to you. Right? You know what kind of party you having. You know how turned up it is. I'll let you make that decision. But there is no law that mandates you open the door. Okay? Know that. Okay, same circumstances. This time, okay. Yeah, so this time the officer says, hey, comes to the door. Y'all probably gonna know this answer. You're like, duh, you just kind of told us the answer. Officer comes to the door, knock, knock, knock. Hey, what's going on? I don't know why, but you decide to open the door. Hey, officer, what's going on? It's like, man, we thought we heard somebody screaming. Can we come in? No. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. It is my opinion as a lawyer, professionally, that you never let an officer in your home unless you are a victim. All right, you're a victim of burglary or something like that. Somebody's hurt. Fine. Other than that, you don't let an officer in your house. You just don't. You don't. All right, you never let an officer search your car. Well, if you ain't got nothing to hide, it'll be okay. No, you can't search my car. I ain't got nothing to hide. And I don't have to let you search my car. So know that. It is my opinion. Don't ever let an officer in your house. Let the officer stay there. So, and once you give them consent, you've just waived your Fourth Amendment rights. So, okay. Now, same scenario, but this time, they're like, hey, noise violation, I don't know. And you open the door. I don't know why, but you open the door and they ask you as the person, oh, hey man, what's going on? Man, just having a little party. Well, come inside. No. Well, can you step outside and talk to us? No. Now, I'm not stepping outside either, bro. So here's why. See, the Fourth Amendment is strongest where? In your house. It protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures, and it is strongest within your home. When you step outside the home, guess where you are not anymore? You're not in your house. And an officer doesn't need a warrant to arrest you in public. And so oftentimes an officer will say, okay, y'all, I used to stay in the hood, right? And it was weird because I was the most educated brother on the block. I was like, I'm just poor. I'm educated, but I'm poor. And so as I graduated from law school and I got my law license and opened my practice. My practice is going well, but I'm like, I still stay in the hood because I'm from the hood, right? And so hood things happen in the hood, right? And it just happens, right? And my neighbor across the street, he's a little hood, and they came over there because they said he had done something to I guess they had said there was a report that he had pointed the gun at a woman like 5 blocks over. It was probably true, but that's neither here nor there. So, but the police show up, and I remember them seeing, because their eyes got big, because they didn't think, lawyer in the hood. Yeah, they didn't see that coming. But they went up to my neighbor's house, said, hey man, I could hear them because I was doing something in my driveway. And they went, hey man, well, why don't you step outside? As soon as my dude stepped outside, because he don't know no better, he a little hood, he's my cousin Ronnie, right? And before he went to jail. So, and he steps outside and they manhandled him. I mean, threw this dude down on the ground, cuffed him and stuff. And now, of course, it all got dispelled because they didn't know that it all got broken up because his hood wife is, Mr. Banks, they taking my... And so I come across the street, and then when they found out I was a lawyer, it's like, ooh, wait, we arresting this dude without probable cause. We're going off of a random tip from somebody. That's not enough, all right? And he's in a house. Okay. And they let him go because they knew I was probably going to sue him. But that's neither here nor there either. So I'm saying that to say that this is an illustration of once you step outside of the threshold of that doorway, you got some problems. If they do, in fact, want to arrest you for something, they want to find something, you ain't got the protections of the Fourth Amendment. You outside. So stay in your house, okay? Don't step outside. Talk to them through that, as my grandma used to say, through that screen door, okay? So, hang on, I lost my place here. So that was, okay, yes. So, same scenario, but this time, okay, Lord have mercy. Okay. Different place, you got this spot, okay, right? And it's you and your roommate, right? And y'all having a party. We in there, we're kicking it. And police show up, knock, noise complaint. You don't go to the door. Your roommate goes to the door, right? Now, you done told the officers, hey, man, nah, man, y'all can't come up in here. Y'all can't come up in there. But your roommate says, hey, I want to come, of course, they tell you, because you came to see me, right? Lorenzo told me I ain't got to let y'all in, right? Dab on them, right? And so then, so Lorenzo told me I ain't got to. But your roommate is like, okay, and lets him in. And of course, you saying, nah, you can't come in. Can the police still come in? Yes. Yes, good. I got some. So, when you have cohabitants of one space, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that the officer can in fact search that place, the common areas of that place, so long as at least one person consents to it. So, even over your objection, it's too late, they're in, right? They're in. So, here's the deal though, and here's the deal. They can only search the common areas. Somebody just said it. When in fact, they start going, and that was my next question. So then they're like, all right, cool. And they searching around the living room and the kitchen, and then they're like, oh, there's her room, and they go in there. They go to your room. Now can they go in there? No, because you have not given them consent. That is not a common area, right? You're still protected by the Fourth Amendment, but not in those open common areas. You kind of up the creek on that, okay? All right, good. This is why I always say, choose your friends and your roommates wisely, because somebody might mess around, get y'all in trouble. Okay. Different scenario. So now that was if you got a house off campus. Let's say you live on campus and you are in you stay in, I don't know, the dorms. Say you stay in the dorms, right? And the RA is coming. Hey man, I smell candles. Because candles are against the rule, right? In all the dorms, right? I smell candles, dog. And, they're like, hey, open up the door. We need to come in and look. Can the RA do that? Yes. There you go. Good. Yes, the RA can. In most of your contracts, even because the next argument they say is, well, what if it's a state school and the state school is an arm of the state, which is the government, and when you sign a housing contract, it's the school. You've signed a contract that says you're going to allow us to come in. So now you can't pull that Fourth Amendment foolishness, right? Just keep your candles out the room, okay, dog? Just don't do it. But yeah, that's what it is. An RA is going to be able to, in fact, under the confines of the contract, they're going to be able to come into your home and search as the contract allows them to do. Now, what about this one? This time, you're on campus, right? You got your apartment, whatever it is. This time, they show up with campus police. So the RA shows up with campus police. Hey, we need to come in. Can they come in? No, they can't. Yes, see, this is good. So I'm not going to say no names of these institutions, but there are some institutions in the state of Oklahoma where their police departments told the students on campus that because we're campus police and you stay on this campus, then we can come in your room without a warrant. And that is legally inaccurate. In fact, it's a flat out lie. The truth of the matter is that these officers, even if they bear the badge of your institution, they are still bound by the U.S. Constitution because they are an arm of the government, right? You didn't contract with the campus police department. They still have police authority that is given to them by a city, which is given to them by the state, which is the government. Do you see what I'm saying? So just because they and that's what a lot of, sorry for all the RAs in the room, I'm letting your secrets out. A lot of the RAs will show up trying to be gangster with 2 cops on their arms and, yeah, we coming up in here. And you can politely tell them, well, Mr. or Miss RA, you obviously can come in, but these officers need to stay right here. And shut the door. You ain't got, come on. Yes, ma'am, thank you. And shut the door. And let the officers stay out there. The Constitution still applies to campus police officers. Don't let that fool you, okay? Okay. Good. The last thing that I really want to tell you, and I know it's sort of off base, but there are 2 things that I represent a lot of college students because I do criminal defense work back home and amongst other things. But the 2 biggest things that I end up representing college students on is possession of marijuana and DUI. Those are the big 2. That's what everybody seems to get popped with. And I'm saying, students, I represent 60-some-odd-year-old men with those charges, okay? It's common, right? So I kind of wanted to tell you all just briefly, because you're going to end up dealing with these when you're out there on the road with these officers. And for those of us who are over the age of 21 and able to drink legally, right? It's very possible that you could encounter some of these issues as a responsible drinking adult. And so I want you to kind of know some things, all right? It's sort of off base, but it's still a kind of know your rights thing because you need to know. We driving down, what's his name? We driving down Peachtree. We didn't just left, The bar, yeah. Club Halo. I was out there a few days ago. So it's a nice spot. So we just left Club Halo and the officer pulls us over. Hey man, I think I smell alcohol. I'm feeling something ain't right with this. I need you to step out of the car and I want you to do field sobriety tests. Do you have to take the field sobriety test? No. Right. Now each of the individuals, so let me tell you what the field sobriety tests are. There are lots of them, all right? You get a lot of people who talk about they'll do well, take your thumb and your fingers and touch them one at a time and then do it backwards and count backwards from 11 and then multiply that by 4. And it's ignorant field sobriety tests. But there's a million of them. But there are only 3 that have been standardized by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And this is what the officers will give you. They will give you the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, all right? That's where they're going to take an object. They'll usually take a pen, flashlight, something. And they'll hold it in front of your face a certain distance. And they'll just make several passes across your field of vision, right to left, left to right. They're looking for your eyes to jerk at certain angles. It's called nystagmus. It's when your eyes involuntarily jerk. And they say that if they involuntarily jerk at certain angles, that it's a very good indicator that you're under the influence of some type of substance, in particular alcohol. The other one is the walk and turn test. It's where the officer is going to tell you to walk 9 steps, heel to toe, right? And they're going to ask you to walk that 9. When you get to that 9th step, they're going to ask you to pivot on that 9th step and walk those 9 steps back. They're looking to see if you're going to if you lose your balance. They want you to count the steps out loud as well. They're going to look for you to be able to count those steps, and they're going to see if you're going to fall over and all that stuff. These are clues that you're under the influence of alcohol. The last one is the one-leg stand test. It's where they ask you to stand on one foot and raise the other leg, hold about 6 inches, hold that for 30 seconds, right? And then they're seeing if you're going to waver, if you fall, and all that stuff, right? Each of the individual states are different, but I can't find any state where it is the law that you must take these. So which means that anytime an officer is saying that you need to take standard field sobriety tests, it's voluntary, and it's only used to hurt you. It's only used against you in the case that they file against you. So double check with each of your individual states, but my research, I can't find one state where it's legal, where it is law that you must take these tests, okay? Know that. The last thing being, you also need to know that when in fact you are being asked to, when they say, okay, we need you to blow into this thing, do you have to blow? Yes or no? No. I said yes and no. Okay. Right. You're like, what was that? Yes. Let me tell you. Most states, this is going to be different for each state. Like in Oklahoma, and I believe it's the same thing here in Georgia, is that yes, you can choose to in fact not take the test and blow. However, it will be an automatic revocation of your license. In Oklahoma, it's for 6 months. I believe here in the state of Georgia, it's for a year. So you can choose not to, and of course, you won't be able to show how much, alcohol is in your blood. However, they're going to automatically suspend your license. So it's a catch-22. You need to know that. So you now know a whole bunch of different laws. Where does this take us? We've got a lot of stuff, and I'm wrapping up. I see the panel up there going, so I need to go ahead and wrap this up. We see a lot of things in the news that show where officers, Terrence Crutcher got shot in my hometown. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, all right, not far from where I used to hang out a lot with some friends. And so we hear these things that happen, and we feel powerless in a lot of ways. Part of getting the power back is actually knowing the law, not listening to Cousin Ronnie, not watching stuff on Facebook. Somebody put a meme up and we think that that is the law. Just because they put a picture with white words across it saying a statement doesn't mean that that's the law. It just means somebody's got Adobe Photoshop, right? So what we need to know is that we empower ourselves by knowing the law, and we govern ourselves accordingly knowing the law. Now that you know the law, the other things that I say best practices are apply the law. You guys are going to law school, apply it. You know you got to get out the car when the officer says go ahead and get out the car. Get out the car. You also know that the officer is going to have probable cause. It can search your car without probable cause. Then don't give the officer probable cause. Get all your stuff together. Make sure your weed is not in the car. You know what I'm saying? But aside from that, so not only just knowing the law and applying the law, it's governing yourselves in such a way that you survive. And I leave you with this. I'll leave you with this. If there was a stove, if this was a stove, and if this stove, when white people went up to touch that stove, they could do anything they wanted to. It didn't burn them. Even though it was red hot, it didn't burn them. They could lay on it, jump on it, they could kick it, they could put their hands on it, and nothing would happen to them. But then you as a black person went to touch it, and it burned you almost alive. Even though it's messed up, and it's messed up that your white counterparts don't experience the same things that you experience, it doesn't mean that you still need to continue to go and touch the stove. We need to figure out what the problem is. Why is it that the stove is treating the black people different than the white people? And we need to fix that, but until then, stop touching the stove. I'm saying that to say this. Do not get into altercations with these officers. Do not try to stand your ground and fight for all black people everywhere when you're being stopped by a police officer. You'll let me or some other lawyer fight that battle for you in court, right? Yes. But until then, you survive, right? Because all that we'll end up having is an airbrush t-shirt of you saying, gone too soon. And yes, we'll probably settle a case for $1.9 million and we'll give it to your family and everybody's cool, but you're gone. Do not be a martyr, okay? Do not be a martyr. Know the law, apply the law, survive. We'll change this country one day at a time, okay? Y'all, thank you so much.